Hi everyone, I hope you all are doing great. We are starting a new series of Kubernetes projects where you are going to learn maybe 30 plus different Kubernetes projects and deploy it in our infrastructures. So this series is going to be very interesting series because whatever we do implement in our organizations, we are going to replicate the same setup using Kubernetes into our machines. Now you might have a question in your mind, how the Kubernetes cluster I will be running. So in our Linux machine, I'm going to use a kind cluster. Kind is a type of tools which uses Docker as a backend and then it deploys multi-node cluster. To be honest, this is going to be 100% real time, which you do in companies. In companies, you set up your Kubernetes on Linux box using kubeadm, or even set up it manually, or many other tools are available. So in this project, you will not feel any difference between the real-time clusters and the Linux machine where I'm using the kind cluster. So please follow us each and every line of the project, and it's really going to make sure that you are going to be expert of Kubernetes after going through this complete series of projects. So let us begin. First, I'm going to deploy the kind cluster. Then I'm going to create 3 node kind cluster and then deploy the Nginx applications and then understand how kind works. So let us begin. I have a Linux machine, and how to confirm, you can check here uname-a, and you can see this is a Linux machine and this is kernel version 5.1.5.167. This is the details and this is Ubuntu. How I can check that? Cat etc star release, and you can even see which version of Ubuntu. So it's one of the latest version of Ubuntu 24.04. So now, how I'll do the kind setup, let us follow me step by step. So I hope you can see these all steps which I'm going to implement. So first, why kind? Kind stands for Kubernetes in Docker, and it is a tool designed to run Kubernetes cluster locally using Docker container as nodes. Second thing it is a lightweight software. It runs on Kubernetes cluster inside Docker containers. So you don't need to set up a virtual machine or actual physical nodes. Next benefit is it is very fast to set up. So it allows you to create a Kubernetes cluster in minutes. You can simulate multi-node cluster. So you can simulate multi-node cluster with control plane and worker nodes. So let me explain how it works in Kubernetes. So in Kubernetes, you will have multiple nodes in your clusters. Suppose I have 3 nodes. One node I'm making it as a master, you can say, or we can say it as a control plane. So this will be our control plane, and then worker 1, and then worker 2. So one master and 2 worker node, and this setup we are going to replicate using kind. So kind will be used to set up this cluster. Now, next is it's great for local testing of Kubernetes resources. You can validate Helm charts, running Kubernetes related, all the stuff in Kubernetes. Almost you can do using this setup. And kind can help you to create multiple versions of Kubernetes clusters. So even you can use it to test or do the POC on multiple Kubernetes versions. So first thing is how it can be done. So first thing what you have to do, you have to just search kind setup for Linux. And if you click on this, and if you go on the installation options, you will see here for the Linux x86-64 AMD or ARM. My system, if you go here, you can see it is x86-64. How to confirm? So here if you see x86-64. So you can use this to set up. I have already downloaded this, so it's not needed. Otherwise, you can download and you can install in your system. Now, once this is done, so if I type kind command, you can see kind is there in my system. So I already downloaded this. But still clusters are not ready. So let us create the kind cluster together. So what I have done, I have installed kind already. Now with kind, you can specify which version of Kubernetes you want to do. So here I have specified 1.24 and 2 worker nodes. I have created a kind-config.yml file. So first let us go in the system, cd, mount in C drive, and then I have users, this, then desktop, then Kubernetes, and then here DEVOPS-TECHSTACK, and then Kubernetes k8s project. And here if you go, so this is going to be our day one of project. So let us see, here I have created the kind config also. So go to day one, and here we have a kind configurations stored here. So open vim kind-config.yml. So see, first thing is kind cluster API version. This is the API version. Then name I have given DevOps Tech Stack cluster. You can name whatever the name you want. And then node, one node is control plane, and here image of kind, then worker node and image, and then the worker node and the image. So there are two workers, and there are two workers, and then one master node. Now once you see this, how to create it now? So to create this, we have a command, and that command is called kind create cluster, and then you can specify the configuration file. I have explained you the configuration file already. So now just kind create cluster, and then your config file name kind-config.yml. So once you start, you can see it has started preparing the node. It will take few minutes to get the cluster ready. Meanwhile, let us understand it further. So once our clusters are ready, you need a kubectl. Why kubectl? Kubectl is a tool or a command line tool which helps you to interact to your Kubernetes cluster. So it interacts to the kube API server and it gives you all the details. So kubectl needs to be installed in your Linux box. You can install kubectl. So directly go to internet and just type kubectl for Linux. Once you go here, you can see using curl on Linux, and here x86 64, directly it will download, and then we have to move to the path. In my case, I have already kubectl here. Now here you see kind cluster, ensuring node image, preparing the node, writing configuration, starting control plane, all the networking ready, storage is ready, and joining of worker nodes. So everything is done. Now you can see the cluster info using this command, which is by default printed here. And if you want to see, here you can see. So Kubernetes control plane is running at this. Then core DNS. Core DNS is for the DNS management in Kubernetes cluster. And then you can see, okay, your cluster is running. Now, as I told you, using the kubectl command, so kubectl get nodes, and you can see the nodes are ready. So here you see one control plane and two worker nodes are ready. Now, since I don't want to type kubectl each and every time, because I want to use a alias name. So in Linux, you can use this alias concept using In Linux, you can use this alias, mm, and this alias instead of kubectl, you can type a name which you want to use. So I have modified my bash profile already. And in my bash profile, I have already entered. So kubectl is now written like kc. So from going forward, instead of using kubectl, I will be using kc command. And this kc as a alias, I have put in my bash rc profile. So if you go to bash RC profile, anywhere you can just put alias like this. So how to put like this way you can see multiple alias. Similar way, let us put for the kubectl also we can put. So let us put here only alias kc is equal to kubectl. And once this is done, then you have to do load this file. So source and then bash rc. And then if you see kc get nodes, you can see. So instead of kubectl, kc also you can work. And you can see your nodes are now ready. So one control plane and two worker nodes. Now let us move next. So in case you want to delete the cluster, you can just put cube instead of kubectl here because it's a kind cluster. So kind delete cluster and name DEVOPS-TECHSTACK cluster. So this will delete it. Now to get a project right now running in this system, what we have to do, we have to go to the path where all configurations I have stored. So now let me explain you what it is. So I have a Docker file here. Let us see what is in the Docker file. So just I am using from Nginx latest. So latest image of Nginx I am downloading from the official Docker Hub, and then I am copying the index.html file inside the container. So user share nginx html and index.html. So whatever the content will be in this index.html, whenever you will expose these applications and open it in a browser, it will be visible to you. So just save it. And then what I have to do, I have to go and build the Docker file. So Docker build -t, and then I am giving the name as kind nginx custom. So Control C, go here, just paste it, and you see image building process has been started. So now your image is ready, and if you see Docker images, you will see kind nginx custom. 5 seconds ago this image is ready. Now you can verify, already we have verified. So again you want to see, just see Docker images and then pipe symbol kind. So you see kind nginx custom, it's 19 seconds ago, it's ready. Now see, right now we are not directly interacting. This means in our deployment of Kubernetes, we can download the images which is stored in Docker Hub or in our private artifactories. But in our case right now, I just want to load this image to each node in the kind cluster manually, because in coming projects, I'll show you how to directly use the public repository or private repository inside the Kubernetes configurations. But as of now, what I want to do, I want to load this image into our kind cluster. So command is kind load and then Docker image, kind image name, and then your cluster name. So once I type this, what happens? You can see a message, it started loading. So loading process is running now, and you can see loading is already done. So now once loading is done, you can create your pod and service file. But in these projects, I am going to create only pod, and services we will be learning in coming lectures. So now I have a pod definition already stored here. Let us see what is the definition of pod. So API version, when you write a configurations, you have to specify the API version. This is V1. Kind, either it's pod, it is deployment, or it's service, or it's cron job. So type of object is pod. I have specified. Then metadata means information about this pod. So name of pod is Nginx Pod. Label is app Nginx. And specifications, container name is Nginx. Image is kind Nginx custom latest. Whatever the image you want to use, but in our case, this is the image with the latest tag. And image pull policy. So by default, it will pull from the public repository, but here we have written if not present. So in this case, if the image, so image already we have loaded to our kind cluster, so it will not try to download it from public. And then port, which port you want to run, container port is port 80. So just exit this file now and do apply. So how to do? KC KC denotes kubectl. So KC apply -f and then pod.yml. So you see pod Nginx pod created, KC get PO, and you will see Nginx pod is running 6 seconds ago. So now once your pod is done, service we are not going to create in this lecture because pod is the smallest object in Kubernetes. So first we'll learn how exactly this is working. So once our pod is deployed, we can open our applications on port 80. But 80 is the local port. You want to open in the browser. So what we are doing? We are doing the port mapping for your pod. So pod is by default running on, if you see, pod is by default running here on this particular worker node. Now, if I want to map this port 80 to be opened in the browser, what we are doing? Port forwarding we are doing as of now. So if you go here, kubectl port forward and then your pod name. So kubectl pod forward and then our pod name is Nginx pod. So here Nginx pod. So now it's forwarding port 8080, means 8080 you can open in the browser and it's pointing to port 80. So if you do here localhost colon 8080, here you can see welcome to my custom DevOps tech stack Nginx page on Kubernetes. So this is ready now. You can see your email, you can open it. And if you stop the port forwarding, you cannot open. So now you see it's refreshing, you cannot open. Again, the moment you just forward the port, it can again open in your browser. So now you can see you can open this in your browser. So I hope you guys got a clear understanding of how to deploy a pod in Kubernetes cluster, how to create a kind cluster, and then how to get or access that applications inside your browser. In coming videos, we are going to be learn very much deeper project details and slowly we will go till the advanced level of these projects. So thank you so much guys for giving your valuable time. If you have any doubts, just put in the comment sections. We'll make sure that in the next video that doubts are also cleared as well.